following program is available in high definition on Channel 700. This program is designed and produced by the community with the support of TV Cogeco.
Hello and welcome to Oakville Matters. This is the television show that looks at the issues that matter to Oakville. And good jobs are one of the things that I know as mayor matter to Oakville quite a lot. With me today to talk about advanced manufacturing, a source of great jobs for Oakville, is Mark Zimny, Stephen Monte, and Bob Marshall. Mark Zimny is the president and CEO of Promation, and Stephen Monte is the Senior Director of Strategic Planning and Global Sales, say that with one breath, for the Power Technologies Group, otherwise affectionately known as Dana. And Bob is the Focus Factory Manager for Machining for Landing Systems at UTC Aerospace Systems. When I became mayor, Bob, I think your shop was called Goodrich.
That's correct.
And I was invited for a tour, and I was eager to find out what was going on at Goodrich. I almost thought I would see tires. Discovered to my surprise I needed a high security clearance to be admitted, and this was arranged somehow. Took forever. I've been a good boy my whole life, but it took forever. And we go into this very tall room, and there's the front end of a jet airliner, or anyway, some kind of jet, the nose and the I don't know what you call the pieces, but the landing gear.
Correct.
Of the front piece of the front wheel of the landing gear. And it's just, when you're not expecting it, it's like you're walking into a candy store, because I'm an 8-year-old boy inside, just amazed at toys that I see everywhere. What goes on? That's a drop tower?
That's a drop test tower. Any sort of modifications on configuration, even from starting out through design, would have to go through rigorous type of testings. One of those tests would be, from certification perspective, would be able to have a drop test on it to impact a very, very hard landing. That would indicate whether or not there was any discrepancies in the materials, or the material dimensions have moved. Understanding the structure as far as the spring curve of how the landing gear actually reacts.
Wow. So I guess you raise the thing up and just let her fall? Or?
Yeah, we raise it up, probably estimated about 4 stories. There's steel plates on it, roughly about 30 tons. And then we get the wheel spinning up to 200 knots an hour, and then actually just pull the switch and drop it. And everybody sort of makes lots of noise and shakes the ground very good.
Well, it's too bad it takes a security clearance to see it. I can imagine every little boy in town, or possibly now that engineering attracts a lot of women too, maybe every kid in town getting excited to see that. Do you have film of it?
Actually, we do have film of it. Unfortunately, due to security and priority requirements, as well as military that we do have in the facility, we do have very strict ITAR requirements.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope I was well behaved, but I was never invited back.
Well, you're certainly welcome back again, Rob.
Well, I look forward to that. Now, Steve, advanced manufacturing is a focus of the town's economic development strategy, and we do it, as I said, introducing the show, because we believe it's a source of well-paying jobs for Oakville. Talk a little bit about who works at Dana, will you?
Dana is a global company, just under $7 billion worldwide. Here in Canada, we, in Oakville in particular, we have the research and development, the Global Research and Development Center for our thermal management products. So we have a little over 100 people in our main R&D center, and then we have a small manufacturing plant with a little under 100 people in Oakville as well. Most of the people in our R&D center will be engineers, technologists, other support staff, tool and die, millwright, so a lot of skilled trades as well as technical engineering people. We also sponsor anywhere between 6 and 12 co-op students from mostly local engineers, local engineering schools. In the past, we've also had students in from abroad, from Europe, from Japan as co-ops as well.
And so, Bob, do you have a similar profile in terms of who works at UTC?
Yes, we do. We've got basically over 900 employees here in Oakville. About 400 of them are indirect, well over 200 engineers from a development perspective, as well as an aftermarket organization that supports the airlines across the world as well.
Wow. Mark, what about the profile of people who work at Promation?
Well, Promation, it's all about technical skills and engineering skills. So 90% of the company, it's engineering, high, well-paid jobs, well above $100,000, closing 150, as well machinists and technologists. And we have very little rudimentary administration supporting this venture.
We have a member of there's 12 counselors on Oakville's council plus the mayor, so the 13 of us. One of us is a professional engineer. There seems to be, I've met quite a number of P.Engs who also get an MBA for some reason. I guess if you're brainy enough to do the one, you're brainy enough to do the other. But through this counselor, I've become acquainted with the fact that the Professional Engineers Organization in the chapter in Oakville has 3,000, 3,500, some gigantic number. So is Oakville the best place to live for engineers? There's a gigantic, it seems like a gigantic cluster.
I mean, Oakville, one of the positive things for Oakville that we find, and a lot of the people that work with us or work for us live in Oakville or even the nearby surrounding area. It's a nice place to live. So from a community point of view, services are wonderful opportunities, especially if you have children, small children, middle-aged children, academic as well as sporting facilities and teams and associations and things that you can get involved in. And then the proximity in terms of if you're participating. I remember when I first moved to Oakville, one of the people in the office, my son was playing hockey and he had to play over at Maple Grove. And so I was talking to someone in the office and explaining to me, oh, that's all the way on the other side of the city, which is about 7 minutes if you hit one of the traffic lights. And growing up in Toronto, that's where I grew up. I mean, you're crossing the city could take you 45 minutes to an hour. So cutting down on the ability to commute and still participate in world-class type activities. I think that attracts people to want to live in Oakville. If you could work in Oakville and live in Oakville, I mean, and you're cutting down on the hour and a half, otherwise, one or two-way type commutes is very positive for people.
I love your take on the travel time. I guess it depends on what you're used to and what you expect.
Yeah.
Everything is relative. It's amazing. Well, Bob, in your company, do you find Oakville Council has adopted the following theory about business development. We adopted as our vision to be the most livable town in Canada, and we did that saying if we achieve that, we'll attract the best people in the country, and that'll attract the best companies in the country. And does that resonate for your company at all?
Yes, it definitely does. Again, I moved to Oakville in 1972 when the population was 35,000. I was fortunate enough, again, to the same experiences growing up. Oakville, our company moved here in 1984 for logistic reasons, one about the area, the community, but we are an export, 90% export business. We're close to our customer, which is Bombardier in Downsview. We're close to the borders, we're close to the major highways, close to major airports. That was some of our initiatives originally when we first came to Oakville. We continued on growing we started off with 120 people, now we're up to 900. So again, job opportunities, technology, manufacturing, skilled, very highly skilled machine operators before heat machining and after heat, which requires a big skill set when you're dealing with 2 and 3 thou tolerances on major components that could be up to 17 feet long. So yeah, it's really, really attractive. Oakville is a wonderful place to live. We do have a lot of people that transport in. I'm lucky I have that 12-minute drive for the last 30 years, so I really appreciate that as well.
You live on the other side of the city then?
Yes.
So Mark, Bob's pointed out that location is also a pretty important part. Does the livability work for your company, or is it more the location?
Basically both. Location is the primary factor for us. We moved from Mississauga because of the locations. We have customers in so-called Power Valley, engineering companies developing nuclear power systems, but also we're developing global connections. Promation's design contracts with Sweden, have Swedish guests, and definitely city of Oakville helps to attract them here as we venture for the city and stroll. We have signed contract with Finland as well, and I'm hoping to sign contract with Koreans on manufacturing. So being center, good location to the airport, and having a beautiful city to present my international guests helps me a lot.
You know, I'm trying to develop more business opportunities for Oakville businesses in China. I went to China in 2012 to try to find and develop a sister city relationship. We have apparently you can't just say, hi, I want to be your sister city. You have to court each other for a while. So 3 years later, we've now reached the point where we're going to create that with Huai'an City, which is a town, well, it's a city of 2 million, but in China that's considered really small. And it's on a lake like we are, and it has some very advanced manufacturing in it. And so next month I'm going to be over there to finalize that deal. I hope that this will produce something for you and you guys too. Is China on your radar?
Not yet. I focus on South Korea, and we have plans to open manufacturing based on South Korean technology. The reason being is that Canada is a fantastic springboard for the United States. It's multicultural. We have Kenyan Koreans having that interest. Very patriotic Kenyan Koreans reaching to Korean's technology company, and we're going to market that to United States from Oakville.
Canada, everybody's friend. I think that works for us, don't you?
Yes, it does.
So let's take a short break, and when we get back, we'll talk about the future of advanced manufacturing in Oakville as expressed by what you guys are looking forward to doing in your companies. Is that okay?
Yep.
Thanks for being with us today. I hope you'll join us in just a second when we're back, and we'll look at the future of advanced manufacturing here in Oakville. Hello and welcome back. We're talking about advanced manufacturing and the future of new jobs in Oakville. Bob, let's start with you. What is the future going to hold, do you think, in terms of products and innovations in the advanced manufacturing world?
Well, we're always looking for new ways of doing things better when it comes to innovation as well as design. Our products, due to landing gear systems that so many aircrafts around the world as far as demand goes, is getting very, very competitive. The business as far as the high volume programs like the Boeing 737s or some of the Airbus products, we're expecting over the next 20 years there'll be a need of about 30,000 aircrafts. and we like to be on those platforms. Part of our initiatives is cost reduction to compete with again, some of our sub-tier contractors. The competitors are already in China and Mexico. So how do we get the innovation and manufacturing technologies to be able to help drive our costs down to keep the work here in Canada as well as Oakville? So those are our major challenges. So we continue. We've been selling an aircraft 3 years ago, 5 years ago, basically cheaper today than it was then, even with inflation. So we do look for improvements of at least 1 to 3 to 5% in our manufacturing cost each year, and we have to do that through technology, lean initiatives in manufacturing, highly skilled training with our employees as well. So those are our challenges to continue on with that road.
I know I would be very popular as a mayor if I could achieve 1 to 3% efficiency every year.
Yes.
But what we find is that as fast as we find efficiency, the residents find new things they'd like us to do, and it kind of
that's hard with the budgets. Yes.
It all sort of wipes it out. But so the best I can do is I tell people we're spending efficiency. If only you could keep your demands for new stuff to that level. Now, Dana does some interesting things already, and where are you headed? And I mean, talk about both.
Well, similar to Mark, a lot of what our customers expect from us is in increasing value. So customers like to talk about reducing costs and then reducing inflation or offsetting inflation, but at the end of the day, it's about giving them more value for what they're buying. Technology in vehicles is increasing dramatically over the years, and a lot of that's achieved by improving the value of the product and the parts. So we've got, as it relates to heat exchangers, which is the primary focus of the Oakville operations.
Stop and explain what a heat exchanger is, in case someone's watching who doesn't come with that knowledge.
Heat exchanger, the easiest example of a heat exchanger is the radiator in front of your car. Okay. So it essentially captures heat and cools down the engine, cools down transmission, or provides cooling and heating for the customer compartment. So two elements in terms of where you put heat exchangers. From a context point of view, heat exchangers used to exist for serving the customer compartment, heating and cooling in the summer, winter, or protecting the engine. So cooling the engine down so that you protected bearings and other parts of a motor. The focus moving forward for traditional internal combustion engines is improving fuel economy and efficiency. Just for context, only about a little more than a third of the energy that's in the fuel is actually turned into usable mechanical power in a vehicle. 2/3 of that energy is lost as a consequence of inefficiency, and is lost as heat. Okay. 1/3 of it is lost down the tailpipe in the exhaust, and 1/3 of it is dissipated through the radiator and other heat exchangers, working to protect elements of the engine. So a lot of the new technology that we're working on is developing products for capturing that heat and then using that heat to improve fuel economy efficiency of a vehicle, or using that heat to turn it into mechanical electrical energy, again, to improve fuel efficiency economy of the vehicle. So that's in the traditional world of the cars as we know it. And there's a lot of opportunity and evolution, over the next few years coming. The other big area of our focus is electric vehicles and fuel cell vehicles. And in regards to the electric vehicle front, the Oakville R&D Center here was developed the battery coolers for the Volt, the Ford Focus vehicle, the heat exchangers for the battery system for the Fiat 500 electric vehicle. We still manufacture the Fiat 500 electric vehicle in the R&D center, and we set up manufacturing for the higher volume Volt and Ford as well in Cambridge facility, so nearby.
So it's pretty well known that I drive a Volt. Now I've got a bit of a even better reason to drive one.
Now you've got a better reason to drive one, and soon hopefully upgrade to the new version that's come out.
The new one is pretty exciting. I always look first at what Ford's offering is, though, for obvious reasons. Mark, what's the future at Promation in terms of developing in the advanced manufacturing world? What are you looking at in terms of R&D and innovation?
Yes, the future is great because Promation will double revenue in the next 4 years based on advanced technology. Promation supports companies like Dana and UTC with robotics and automation. So we ask for the problem and we bring the solutions. Promation supplies robotics for assembly, as well AGVs for material handling. And robotics is used more and more to improve the quality, reduce the damage of the product, as well get consistency of the product. That's one line, but the very new line which is coming to Promation and we're going to market to companies in Oakville, in Ontario, Canada, and to the world is 3D laser metal printing. Promation will, with cooperation of National Research Council of Canada, will market globally 3D metal printing technology, which is complete future. Potentially will replace CNC machining in 20 years, not right away. It's a long haul. It's difficult, especially for aerospace. But that's definitely I'll be marketing the technology in Oakville, starting with Oakville, and expanding globally.
Well, I don't know very much about 3D printing, but I went to a local Oakville company that does 3D printing with plastics, and that's apparently useful in terms of creating molds. And molding's a pretty important part of advanced manufacturing. I know from a friend of mine who has an auto parts company. But to do metal strikes me as miraculous and beyond my imagination. Are we entering a world of replicators where you're gonna you don't have to store parts anymore? You'll store instead a program on a computer, and when you need a part, you'll print the part?
Very much so. It's just imagination can be really wild over here. Metal 3D printing is just part of it. There are already bi-material or multiple material 3D printing technology developed, which means you can actually go into biological, even 3D printing. So
biological 3D? I need a new finger, print me a finger?
That's the future. That's the really future. There's no timeline for this. I'm not expert there, but that's the direction that's going on.
Well, my grandfather and my grandfather lived to be 100. My father's 92. He says he has a plan to live to be 100. I tell him, aim higher, please, because I think you get what your male line gets, right? Am I going to see any of this in the next 30 years, or do I need to aim higher?
Well, living in Oakville, definitely for sure. It's a very friendly community and very healthy community. I'm quite sure we both going to see huge progress.
Amazing to me. I mean, we are, in fact, it's random that this links to this, but we recently received a study that showed that the longevity of Oakville residents is the highest in the country. Another one showed that our level of health is the highest in the country. And of course, we have for 7 years been the safest community in the country when you look at crime. So I'm going, maybe it's Camelot, you know, the perfect place. But this is a really amazing future. When I was a kid, I used to look at Popular Mechanics, and they would always say, you know, we'll have flying cars by the time you're 20, and you know, this kind of stuff. I'm waiting for my flying car, but it's very exciting what you guys are part of. When each of you were talking, it made me think of the stories I read in the press constantly about how Canada has no productivity, and I guess they're talking from an aggregated level, that, you know, when people try to measure productivity gains for the nation, we see, they claim they see none. But talking to you, your businesses are all about productivity. Everything you said is about productivity gains every year. You could call it efficiency, but it comes to the same thing.
The other big opportunity I think Canada has, or Canada needs to focus on, is you need to have a thriving manufacturing base in order to support and sustain a standard of living or first-class economy. At the same time, given the standard of living that we have and the cost of living that equates to, you need good-paying jobs. You don't get a pass, though, in competing with the rest of the world, where wages may be lower. So, in order to in order to balance that mix and be successful, you have to invest in advanced manufacturing techniques, advanced product, but also important, the manufacturing of those products, because at the end of the day, those are the volume jobs that you want to attract here. And I think one of the things that we don't think about in terms of attracting jobs is the decision making and the ownership of the decision making. And if you can attract the decision-making owners to want to live in the community, you naturally, once you make the short list, have the advantage of, here's where we're going to select to put that manufacturing, here's where we're going to select to put those jobs. And so it goes hand in hand. It's not necessarily an obvious link, but I think a lot of the decisions where Canada loses out on is decision makers are not here. And so I think having a place where people want to live and work, attracting the decision makers and the people who are prepared to make those investments will go a long way to supporting growing the economy. And
I can tell you from personal experience that is exactly what happened in landing one of the world's greatest technology companies to locate in Oakville. And I only don't mention them by name because they're not here to defend themselves. But it absolutely was what drove the decision. We only have a couple of seconds left, but I want to mention that the Auto Mayors Caucus that I'm the chair of has, for the last year and a half, been lobbying strongly the provincial and the federal government to recognize the need for an advanced manufacturing policy for our country. We've identified automaking as a prime example, and you've proven it today as a prime example of advanced manufacturing. And we're having a summit of every player, the parts manufacturers, the assemblers, the academics, the associations, the government, in early September. And both governments have given us commitments that advanced manufacturing policy is now on, and that's in my mind a huge development. And because I think there was a time when governments didn't believe in policy. They thought, just the unfettered free market would solve everything. But I think maybe we have to organize ourselves around our objectives. It's been wonderful chatting with you. I'd love to do it longer, but we're out of time. I want to thank you for joining us and looking at Oakville's future. Certainly the future of our jobs and our advanced manufacturing matters to Oakville. Please join us next time.